What is a scary or horrifying fact that shouldn't be true, but is? Some monks used to endure a spiritual practice whereby they eliminated all their body fat through diet and exercise, ate wood lacquer tea to kill off internal bacteria, then sealed themselves in a tomb holding a string attached to a bell. A year after the bell stopped ringing, the tomb was opened, and if the monk's body was found to be uncorrupted, they were revered as a saint. If not, they were buried. The process took years, and as they continued, the monks required more and more help from their brothers until they entered the tomb. The whole time you'd hear bells ringing from the nearby tombs as the monks inside slowly wound down the last days of their lives. Voluntarily poisoned, starved, and buried alive for a chance at sainthood. There is more actual lemon juice and lemon scented pledge spray than there is in country time lemonade. 60% of murders are unsolved here in Pakistan. In the NT, Australia, I remember seeing a government warning that crocodiles inhabit the area. Among the few bullet points of advice on the sign, the last one read, if they see you. A single female tiger killed 432 people in India. No wonder she was single. Snails have thousands of teeth. An unbelievable number of people who die of dehydration do so with a fair amount of fresh water in their possession. You could have mad cow disease for 12 to 50 years before symptoms start showing. When you get to sunburn, over 150 dead bodies of climbers are still on Mount Everest. One of the experiments the Japanese did during World War II at Unit 731 was cutting off limbs of living, waking people without anesthesia and sewing those limbs onto other prisoners. They also infected male prisoners with various infectious diseases, then forced them at gunpoint to RP pregnant prisoners to see if the disease would transmit to the baby. Fun fact: researchers from Unit 731 were given immunity by the US in exchange for knowledge gained from their experiments. The Soviets tried 12 for war crimes. The accounts of victims from the trial and elsewhere were labeled as communist propaganda. Pigs can dispose of a body with relative ease. Actually, pigs will eat everything except the teeth. Lobsters, on the other hand, will dispose of the whole body. There are more Panda Express locations in the world than actual panda bears. If a person gets bitten by an animal who has rabies, he will continue to live on a normal life for 12 weeks. And after the symptoms develop, there is no way he's making out alive. You'll know you're gonna die. In Mississippi and some parts of Florida, there is a bacteria in the water at the coast that will literally eat your flesh off of you. Florida is much safer than Mississippi though. At least, in that aspect. There is a mosquito in Florida that, when it bites you, can make your brain swell inside your skull and can possibly kill you. Within 3 days of death, the enzymes from your digestive system begin to digest your body. Also pack it up, boys. We're done air. Antibiotic resistance. In 2010 I got a MRSA infection. Spent 6 weeks in and out of hospital, ending in organ failure and sepsis, nearly died. 2 months later I was back in again. 2 months after that I was back again. On my third admittance they had run out of antibiotics to give me. The doctors researched for hours to find something they could try. Dug up an old antibiotic with terrible side effects and tried it. It didn't work. Luckily one of the ones I had previously tried and had a bad reaction to during sepsis. So probably not the medication. They tried again and it worked. But being deathly ill while the doctors have no idea what to give you is a scary place to be. The actual scientific cure for hiccups is NL massaging. And it works. Every single year, there are thousands of people in the US alone who disappear. Most of them show up again. Usually the next day, but sometimes a few days, a few weeks, or even a few months later. However, out of these thousands of people, there are roughly 150 people every single year who disappear and simply never appear again. Nobody knows what has happened to those people. They might be dead. They might not be. We simply don't know. People forget sometimes just how big the world is. There are still a lot of uninhabited spaces where someone can die and simply not be discovered. Dylan Klebold, one of the killers of the Columbine Massacre, attended the school's prom 3 nights before the shooting. When he got home, he was talking to his mom and showed her the flask he'd brought to prom, explaining that they'd only drank a little bit. He told her, "I just wanted you to know you can trust me." It's so chilling that he could say that and less than 72 hours later participate in the killing of 13 other people and himself. What's even more frightening is that Columbine was really a failed bombing. They intended to blow up the entire school with propane bombs. Fortunately, none of them detonated. In just one case. I've tried to use this as a pickup line before. It does not work. Long dormant bacteria and viruses, trapped in ice and permafrost for centuries. In 2009, a paralyzed Belgian awoke from a 23 years long coma. And it was discovered he was fully conscious and could hear everything around him the entire time. Like, what the actual F? Just imagine lying there not being able to move for 2 decades but also being aware of your surroundings. That's all kinds of messed up nightmare fuel right there. All these comments will be read by a robotic voice and played on YouTube. This will also cause many students to procrastinate by listening to that video. The Amazon forest has a huge gap of virgin forest between Brazil and other countries, places kilometers away from the nearest cities. The Brazilian Institute for Native Indians, FUNAI, has got agents overlooking tribes, and they take flights over the forest and always end up spotting huts, fire pits and bow and arrow armed men. There are plenty of unknown tribes hiding somewhere that huge forest. People never contacted by civilization. The fun fact is even the Institute agents have no idea of number, types and tribes they're inside. Can't track down, account, or detect their genealogy. Amazon forest is a complex and humid place. You can hide a family of elephants there inside and you won't see it from the sky. You might feel like the healthiest person in the world and yet still randomly die in your sleep. Sudden arrhythmic death syndrome is just one example. There are tons of small obstructions and irregularities that your heart could be suffering from that go completely unnoticed by you, your friends, and your doctors. You might be at an increased risk of just passing on when you go to bed tonight. And no one would even suspect as much until you actually died. Every time unemployment goes up 1%, 40,000 people die. The chances of any of the super powerful people that used Jeffrey Epstein's island as a place to underage girls actually being punished for what they did is almost zero. A lone pilot was flying in Australia in 1978. He reported to air traffic control that he was accompanied by an aircraft above him. When asked to identify the aircraft, he replied, "It isn't an aircraft." His plane disappeared and was never to be found again. The sun will someday die. Can't wait. It's a trash newspaper. Abusive child imagery known as child pornography was legal in Japan until the 2010s. It's still a major problem. The average American consumes over 150 pounds of sugar every year. Edit. That's approximately 187 grams of sugar per day for my metric system friends. Space is so big our minds literally can't comprehend the size of it. Thousands of children are sexually abused every day by adults they are supposed to be able to trust. When you have scurvy, all your old scars and wounds open up due to the vitamin needed to maintain scar tissue. So for me, for example, I had my jaw dislocated and my gums cut open from cheek to remove wisdom teeth. If I got scurvy, I would bleed uncontrollably from the inside of my mouth out. What would be your most horrifying scar? 51 is divisible by 17. Whatever the is at the bottom of the ocean. Seriously, we know so little about this place and we've seen so much murderous down there that we've only scratched the surface on how much nightmare fuel is actually down there. Marital rape is still not a crime in 36 countries including India. Fun fact. India walked backwards. Which means that before 2012. You know how utterly bat crazy Florida is? Actually all states are that crazy. It's just that Florida has rather lax privacy laws regarding legal matters, so they report it. In the 5 years my family lived in Florida, the next door neighbor accidentally set himself on fire 3 times. Something is eating the Milky Way galaxy. No. It isn't the plot for a Star Trek episode. It's really happening. In 2009, researchers found a cluster of galaxies moving at an extraordinary speed towards a small patch of sky between the constellations of Centaurus and Vela. Some unknown force is tearing away chunks of the galaxy, and astronomers still have no clue what exactly is causing it. It's been named Dark Flow. There is something big out there. Far bigger than anything in our known universe. Such a behemoth would impose a kind of tilt on the universe, causing matter to move in one particular direction, or as observations of the dark flow suggest. Could be anything, up to and including another universe. For me, the fact that maybe we'll never know what happened to flight MH370 is kinda disturbing. At least the generally accepted safe maximum level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is 350 ppm. As of 2019 the level is over 409 ppm. We're in China. The more horrible things happens in life, the more all of humanity become destinized and careless about what coming next. If the average person understood our monetary system, there would be revolution tomorrow. Henry Ford. The partial reserve banking system is actually the biggest theft of wealth in human history. Go into your calendar app. Scroll 150 or so years into the future. You will not see those days. Those birthdays for your friends and family that repeat? Yeah. Those won't matter anymore. Now, you might be thinking, but with modern medicine I might live that long. But no. You almost certainly will not. If you want to contemplate your own mortality, open your app and find some random Wednesday in June of 2185 and think of all the things that will happen that day that you won't be seeing. The laughing track you hear in movies or shows are from the 70s, so basically you are hearing dead people laughs. You can have been old enough to laugh on a track in the 70s and still be alive now, lol. Human trafficking makes 150 billion a year in the money. Edit. It's honestly sickening that many of you commenting are making jokes about it. The suicide rates of men. In the United States, it's still common for newborn baby boys to be taken into an operating room, tied down into a special restraining device, and have the end of their penis ripped apart and then cut off. Without any anesthesia. They are literally operated on cold. In spite of the baby's screaming and the fact that some of them hyperventilate or empty their bowels due to the pain. Some of the people responsible for conditioning the practice maintain the idea that they can't feel it or that it's just a little snip of skin, which is cognitive dissonance on a level that defies belief. Some babies even bleed to death as a result of it. Rendered only a statistic. A footnote. The baby has part of its sexual organ disabled years before the age of sexual maturity and will never know what natural sex feels like. There is almost never any medical need for this. And it continues only because it makes the hospital bonus money. And because of cultural conditioning. Many people who have been the victim of this surgery go on to have it done to their own children. Pregnancy is horrible. Once you start showing rabies symptoms, it is already too late. If you get murdered, you have a slim chance of the killer being found. That heavily depends on who killed you and where. Random stranger killed you in Washington, D.C.? He'll likely get away with it. Friend or family member killed you in Idaho? Yeah. Your killer is going to prison. You are about to die every 3 minutes, but by breathing you reset it. There exists creatures in this world that possess hemotoxic venom, bursting red blood cells, causing organ damage and hemorrhaging, as well as necrotizing the area surrounding the bite. That's right. Animals that possess venom that causes the bite site to die. One day, everything you are will simply not be anymore. And there's nothing you can do to stop that. Try me. We all have mites in our eyelashes. Inside our bodies hides a spooky, scary skeleton. People are capable of exacting horrific pain and suffering upon each other for absolutely no reason whatsoever. I watched a YouTube video not too long ago that explained how heads stay alive for about 30 seconds after being beheaded. The guy who found this out worked with a prisoner who was sentenced to be beheaded, and they worked out a plan to see how long the beheaded guy's head would react to stimulus. Cockroaches can fly. A nightmare can kill you. That is to say, if you're at risk of a heart attack, a nightmare can be the trigger. I don't know how horrifying this might be, but if you get water between your contact lens and your eye and don't clean it for a long period of time, there's a chance some form of bacteria can get into your eye and will eat away your vision until it's gone. Apparently doctors won't know if it's there until it's too late as well. Always use solution, folks. Many people don't give up about anything horrifying happening to others until they feel threatened themselves. For example, the Holocaust. Any one of us at literally any point can die from so many things out there that we have absolutely zero control over and can do absolutely nothing about. Semicolon. Just look at a gamma ray burst, for example. It travels at the speed of light and it would hit us all with a deadly dose of radiation that would kill over 99% of this planet's life forms. Semicolon. Since it travels at light speed, there is absolutely no way to know in advance about it. Only after it has happened. In fact, it might have happened just now, and since it's gamma radiation, there are going to be very few people who will be sheltered from the dose when it happens. Not that it would matter, because it would simply nuke all of our food sources. Prolonged exposure to cockroach can lead to an allergy to both cockroach and coffee. Chainsaws were originally invented for childbirth. Chainsaws and childbirth should not belong in the same sentence. Nowadays, everybody wants to talk like they've got something to say. But nothing comes out when they move their lips, just a bunch of gibberish. Motherers act like they forgot about dread. We don't even know what we don't know about space. The Earth's poles are slowly inversing. Most sophistry relies on logical fallacies and is wildly successful, despite a comprehensive list of logical fallacies being a few mere keystrokes away on a search engine. There's a place on Mount Everest called the Rainbow Valley, which takes its name not from the rainbows that you see from it, but from the colors of the jackets of hundreds and hundreds of corpses that lay across the valley. Pretty scary. When threatened by a dog, a kangaroo will head into a body of water, wait for the dog to follow in after it, and then drown it. 1. If you are a healthy 20-year-old, you have around 2,860 weeks before you die. Just 2,860 Sundays. 2. The average person will be less successful than they think. 3. About 153,000 people die on your birthday. 4. Seals have been known to RP penguins. 5. If you took all of the world's spiders and let them out in the Netherlands, they would consume the country's population in 3 days. 6. 1 in 50 of us is walking around with a brain aneurysm. It just hasn't ruptured. 7. The Colombian serial killer Pedro Alonso Lopez, who is known as the Monster of the Andes, arped and murdered over 300 girls from Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia. However, after he was caught and imprisoned for 18 years, he was put in a psychiatric hospital. There he was reviewed, declared to be sane, and was set free, in spite of his blatant avowal that he fully intends to kill again. Ever since his release in 1998, Nobody knows where he is or what he's doing. Virtually everybody has the capacity to kill. They just haven't been put under the circumstances where it would be a preferable option. Is this really unknown? It's how our ancestors survived. So it's not like it's a grand secret or disturbing fact. The existence of people who believe that the earth is flat, despite the overwhelming amount of evidence that it isn't. Most of them don't actually believe that the earth is flat. How dark the BTS of The Wizard of Oz is. In Judy Garland's Dorothy own words, they had us working days and nights on end. They'd give us pep-up pills to keep us on our feet long after we were exhausted. Then they'd take us to the studio hospital and knock us cold with sleeping pills, Mickey sprawled out on one bed and me on another. Then after 4 hours they'd wake us up and give us the pep-up pills again so we could work another 72 hours in a row. Half of the time we were hanging from the ceiling. But it became a way of life for us. The fact that some people think pedophilia is okay or an actual sexual preference. Every 60 seconds in Africa, a minute passes. Terrifying. The sperm whale is the loudest creature on Earth at 230 dB. Like louder than all the other humans get up to. At Tsar Bomba, the loudest explosion ever detonated by humanity was 6 dB quieter at 224. Sperm whales can produce sound waves so powerful it can kill you. Though apparently, they have been known to use their inside voices around human divers. They whisper around us so they don't hurt us. How about that? Cockroaches like to eat your fingernails while you sleep. Then why do I still have to trim them? You have a higher chance of dying to a swarm of bees than of winning the lottery. The Indian cheetah and Sumatran rhino were among some of the species that went extinct in 2019, along with Chinese paddlefish, Yangtze giant softshell turtle, Spix macaw, Katarina pupfish, Indo-Chinese tiger. In countries all over the world, including our own, children, many of them just like you, are abducted and sold into the world of underground sex trafficking. Children, many of them just like you, so 31-year-old men. Some people think vaccines cause autism. The uncanny valley. The mere existence of us having this gut aversion to things that aren't quite human. It means there may have been something that existed alongside early humans that looked much like us, but were incredibly dangerous. We don't know what they were, or if they're really gone, or if they really existed at all and we just inherited some form of psychosis. Sorry, but it's very unlikely it was some alien species and more likely it was simply BC of Neanderthals. In Argentina we have no DNA bank and a barely functional fingerprint detection system, even though we invented that bitch. Also, negligence by forensics is the norm. What does this mean? In Argentina, if you kill someone you don't like, but the cops never suspect you, you'll never ever be remotely close to being busted. In fact, anyone could get away with murdering a stranger at any time without previous preparation. And if they somehow catch you red-handed, a life sentence is 35 years here with parole every couple of years. And there's a law that says that by every 2 people that get incarcerated, 1 must be freed, so there's always the chance you'll get randomly freed. Also, the average time a killer does here is between 10 and 20 years. The fact that we don't murder each other as much means anarchy could possibly work, I guess. At least 1 in 4 women and 1 in 30 men experience rape or a serious sexual assault at some point during their lives, and 1 in 8 victims were under the age of 10 at the time. You can be walking down the street, minding your own business, when a random stranger can decide to hit you for no reason. You can lose consciousness instantly from that strike, and fall to the ground with enough force to crack your head open, killing you. 1 second you're minding your own business. The next everything goes black and you're gone. It doesn't go black, it goes nothing. You could die at any moment without any notice and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Guys, I appreciate the upvotes, but some of y'all really need therapy. I wish you the best. But please go talk to someone. Being gay is illegal in 69 countries. In 7 of those countries homozuality is punishable by death. I remember reading the front page of a newspaper my dad had just put down. There was this word I didn't understand. The headline was describing the corporal punishment a couple of men were to be sentenced to for an act they'd committed. My dad didn't want to explain what the word meant. My mum really struggled to describe the act they'd been accused of. Ultimately, it just sounded like these men were cuddling in a disgusting way. These men were about to receive corporal punishment for something, which I understood was consensual and which they did in private. Did they harm each other? Did they hurt anyone? I vividly remember my confusion and my young brain could not comprehend the logic behind the sentencing. No matter how hard I try, I can never teach my cat how to speak English. FBI has stated that there could anywhere between 25 to 50 active cereals in the USA right now. Frosted Flakes, Honeycomb, Cocoa Pebbles. If we are counting the generics, then there's gotta be more than 50. One treatment of immunotherapy for my dad's liver cancer is listed on the manufacturer's site for $13,000. The supervolcano under Yellowstone is still active and can erupt. The chances are very low, but if it does, it can cause devastation in whole USA, spreading ashes over the whole country and parts of Canada. A portion of people reading this have a silent aneurysm just waiting to kill them. That most of these comments are false or copied. 73% of people have a tendency to believe statistical numbers based upon no facts or studies. There are no political parties, only a ruling class, and they have us at each other's throats. Hedge funds can manipulate the stocks for decades and no one will bat an eye. The majority of parasitic infections, or at least a substantial minority, depending on the type of parasite, are asymptomatic. Meaning that you could have worms in your body right now and have no clue. Now for the good news. Your body is actually pretty good at getting rid of parasitic infections on its own. Additionally, you can cure most infestations with coconut. I successfully got rid of giardia using nothing but a tablespoon of coconut oil in a cup of hot chocolate every morning for a few weeks. Mayonnaise exists, and it is an instrument. Food, housing, water, and in some places getting medical treatment is all treated like a business. Anyone can have a child. We have tests for driving cars. You have to have certain qualifications for multiple professions. And yet there are absolutely no tests, checks, exams. Nothing to make sure you're suitable to raise a human being before you bring a thinking, feeling person into the world. Of course, I don't know what the hell such a test would look like. But the existence of abused children who grow up into messed up people who may or may not perpetuate such abuse is just